Ask any trader if they have an edge, and they'll all say yes. But then ask them to prove it, to actually define it with hard numbers and data. And suddenly, you're not talking about math anymore. You're talking about a feeling, an intuition. Well, today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to define what a real mathematical trading edge actually is. And that quote, man, it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. This is the big, uncomfortable truth. The huge gap between a habit that just happens to make money sometimes and a genuine, provable skill, that gap is everything. It's the difference between someone who makes it in this business and someone who just doesn't.
So let's start there. Let's pull back the curtain on this illusion of skill that so many traders, maybe even you, are operating under.
This really breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got the language of a habit. It's all about feelings and intuition. It's about creating a narrative, a story for why a trade worked. It's all subjective, right? But then look at the other side. That's the language of a real edge. It's not a feeling. It's demonstrable with data. It's not just a one-off. It's repeatable. And it's not a story. It's a cold, hard statistical advantage. One is basically a hobby. The other is a business.
So why do we get stuck on the wrong side of that chart? Well, it's literally baked into our brains. Back in the 70s, a psychologist named Michael Gazzaniga discovered this thing he called the interpreter brain. See, our left brain's job isn't really to be right. Its job is to make sense of the world. It hates randomness. So when it sees random events, it just makes up a story to connect the dots. In trading, that tendency is absolutely catastrophic.
And this is the vicious cycle it creates. Look, you have a couple of winning trades. Could be pure luck, just market noise, but your interpreter brain kicks in immediately and says, aha, I've found a pattern, this is it, this is my edge. That story feels so real. It feels like solid proof. So you start trading with this false conviction, probably sizing up, right until the market does what it always does. It changes, and the pattern stops working. But does the brain admit it was wrong? No way. It just invents a new story to explain why it failed. Oh, it was the Fed, or the volume was too low. This cycle, this is the entire career arc for most losing traders. If you want to break that cycle, you have to ask yourself this one single question. This is it. This is the question that separates the pros from the amateurs. Is this working because I'm good, or just because I got lucky with the market conditions? And you know what? Most traders are absolutely terrified to ask this because they're afraid the answer will tear down everything they think they've built. Okay, so we've talked about the problem, this psychological trap we all fall into. So what's the way out? It's not more psychology. It's not more positive thinking. It's math. Math is the only way to get true clarity and to escape the stories our brain wants to tell us. So let's get super clear about what we're aiming for. Here is the clinical, no fluff definition of a trading edge. It is a demonstrable, repeatable, statistical advantage. And here's the most important part. It produces positive expectancy over a large sample of trades. It's not about the last 3 trades, it's about the next 300. And this right here, this is how you prove it. This is the formula. It's actually pretty simple. You take how much you make on an average win, and you multiply it by how often you win. Then, from that number, you subtract how much you lose on an average loss, multiplied by how often you lose. That final number at the bottom, your expectancy, is everything. If it's positive, even by a little bit, congratulations, you have an edge. If it's 0 or negative, you have a habit. It is that black and white. You know, this isn't some new age idea from a Vegas casino. The ancient Stoics had a concept for this thousands of years ago. They called it phantasia catalepticae. It means seeing reality as it actually is, stripped of your hopes, your fears, your stories, just seeing what is truly there. That's what the expectancy formula forces you to do. So look, this is what it all boils down to. It's this one simple but massive distinction. You have to forget what you feel. You have to ignore what you remember working that one time. You have to go to your spreadsheet, to the raw data of your trades, and ask, what does this data prove? Not what do I believe it proves. That gap between belief and proof is where your real work as a trader lies. Okay, so if you're sitting there right now thinking, man, I don't have this documented, what's the next step? Well, there's a path. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it is the essential work required to build a real edge from the ground up. It's 4 steps. First, you write it down.
I mean, write down every single rule with so much detail that you could hand it to a stranger and they could treat it for you without asking a single question. Second, you backtest manually. Go through historical charts one by one and record every trade. Third, you forward test. Open a demo account and take at least 100 trades to see how it works in the market right now. And finally, step 4, you go live, but with the smallest possible size for another 100 trades. This last step, this one isn't about testing the system anymore. It's about testing you.
And when you do that work, when you go through that process, you literally cross a line. You transform your trading from the left side of this slide to the right. You stop gambling, relying on feelings and hope, and you start running a business that relies on a statistical advantage. You stop chasing those 1 in a million highlight reel trades, and you just execute a boring, disciplined process that over time gives you a predictable result.
So all of this, the psychology, the math, the 4 steps, it all comes down to one final, very honest question that I want you to ask yourself.
Right now, if I asked you to open up a spreadsheet and prove to me with documented trade data that you have positive expectancy, could you do it? Not tell me a story about it, not explain how it feels. Could you show me the proof? If the answer to that question is no, or even, I'm not sure, then you know exactly what your job is. The next step for you isn't finding a better indicator. It's not about putting in more hours staring at the charts. The next step is evidence. The real work is to stop the cycle of habit and begin the unglamorous, essential process of building proof. So build it.